Yo, what's the deal? You got Long with this Skin Forward. Here to do a video response to J Love 47, reasons why biracials are hated. Um, First of all, let me say I have a different perspective now after watching your video um, on another subject, and I'm gonna get to that a little bit later. But I want to kind of deal with this in your videos about at hand. Um, First of all, let me say that there's no reason why any group of people should be hated. However, I do agree with you in saying that there are some multiracial people, some biracial people who do have that ignorance. You know, I think every cultural group does. So I don't think it's more or less why, as far as the subject of the video, why biracials are hated, but why everyone is hated. Because everyone is capable of that same type of ignorance. You know, I've experienced quite a bit of it firsthand from different cultures, and you know, it's just a part of life. And I think if we want to see some change, we can't perpetuate that ignorance by carrying on that type of um, uh, character. And when I say that, I say, like, you know, when I watched your video, you know, I was agreeing with what you said up until the point where you started pointing out percentages of people, um, and it's very difficult for me to believe that you're that worldly, that you've traveled enough, you know, to make that type of prediction. That 50 to 75% of um, multiracial or biracial people are prejudiced or full of themselves. For me to believe that, I would have to believe that you've lived in all the different countries of the world, because to open your mind to a couple things, there are people of different cultures in a lot of different places. And for me to make any type of prediction where I'm going to say a certain percentage of or group of people are a certain way, I would have to have that knowledge firsthand. So I can't agree with that. I can't see your perspective, especially after saying that you understood the breakdown of that situation. But I can say, you know, that I learned something about myself, that I felt like, you know, I had my own prejudice, you know, of judging other people. But it wasn't towards, well, first of all, let me say, I've seen a video of the, whatever, mixed boy, whatever, wherever the hell he is. You know, and it's not that he thought that he was better than black people. He thinks he's better than fucking everybody. Because I know even B. Matt, Jury, there's several people who would be considered biracial, both biracial or multiracial, that he's got hatred for. He has self-hatred. So that has nothing to do with the subject that you're dealing with, because he's just a lost individual. He doesn't even know what he doesn't even know what he's talking about. And I think that's obvious for anybody who watches his videos. So you can't classify a group of people based upon what he's saying, because he's dealing with a totally different demon. But when it really comes down to it, what I was trying to say before is, by watching your video, I did see some ignorance that's in me. And, you know, like, I can appreciate anybody who's going to spit some knowledge of when there is a time when I've looked at a race of people, and I've been angered and frustrated, and I've judged them as a category, and that's white people. You know, I fault them for a lot of things, when not every single white person is responsible for what has happened. Now, I feel like quite a few white people have carried on to the tradition of maintaining a superiority complex over other people. But that doesn't mean that all white people should be viewed. They should have the opportunity to prove themselves as individuals before they're judged. And I know, you know, that's been a very difficult task, and I'm sure that's a very difficult task for anybody who's considered a minority. But your video has opened up my eyes to that frustration or that anger that I have. Now, I do treat people like even white people as individuals. But I noticed that some things that I may say in real life and in videos does categorize them as a group of people, and that's not right, because what you put out there to other people without allowing yourself to really understand the dynamics of who somebody truly is, you're basically doing this. You have the same behavior as that person. You're just as guilty. And so, I do agree with what you said about there being some, multiracial and biracial people who full of themselves and that. But there's a whole world of people, and I agree with you up to the point where you started spotting percentages, because that makes me feel like after saying what you did, that sounded very educated, that there was a part of it that was ignorant, because you can't judge a group of people on percentages without knowing. Have you traveled to Japan, or have you been in China, or have you been to all these other places where they have minorities all over the world, and people who are mixed with everything, because the United States is just a small percentage of what's seen. But then again, the United States is a breeding ground for hatred, with all of the slavery that went on here, the robbing, the murdering, I mean, you name it, it all took place here. There's so much negativity here. There's so much that this country has been built upon, and has been carried on, and I think that it needs a social reform. This country needs a social reform. People need to be more aware about other people, and learn to accept and respect other people. But I can tell you that I appreciate your video, because it allowed me to see something that I never saw in myself. I felt justified in my anger and my frustration to just say whatever came across my mind that was emotional. And it's not fair to other people. You have to give other people a chance to be themselves, and show you that you cannot judge a group of people based upon their genetic makeup, or their visual how they would be viewed visually. You can't say that a person's going to act that way just because they look a certain way or fit a certain stereotype. But I mean, that's all I really wanted to say. I feel like, do we want to make changes, or do we want to just sit up here and complain? Because I hear people complain about it all the time, but then nobody really looks at the things that they do in everyday life. Nobody really makes their own judgments. And I think, instead of pointing the finger, well, you do this and you do that and you do this and you do that, we should all be able to do both sides of that. Judge ourselves and judge others, because we're going to judge people no matter what. Everybody needs a balancing system. It's not like people are gonna totally just stop judging each other, and that's gonna be the end of it. We're gonna always judge people, because everybody needs checks and balances. But to judge a group of people more than another group of people, or to put emphasis on, or negativity on another group, it's gonna cause these type of issues. And obviously we know the way that especially this country was set up, and other countries too, but it was set up to breed that type of hatred, that type of prejudice. And when we manifested our own opinions and behaviors into such great levels of negativity, then this is the outcome that you get. But that's pretty much all I want to say. I appreciate your video, and keep doing what you do. 2 fingers long with the 6 can forward.